Hi there. Good morning and welcome to our Encompass Mental Health and Communication series. I'm Louise Hanson. I'm a registered social worker and the program manager for the Encompass program. And on behalf of the entire Encompass team, it is my pleasure to host these sessions. Our intent with the communication series is to reduce the stigma around mental health by keeping the conversations going, because mental health challenges are prevalent and no one need feel that they are the only ones dealing with their challenges. And so we believe that that really happens best through open conversations. It's also our intention to share messages of hope for recovery and wellness, to bring in speakers, both professional and those with lived experience, or both, to share education, strategies, and coping skills, whether that's about recovery or resilience. And today it's my pleasure to introduce Matthieu as our speaker. But before I do that and share a little bit of information about her background, just a couple of housekeeping points. We have purposely disabled everyone's cameras and microphones so that you can participate anonymously. We are recording the session and we host it on the Encompas site so that those of you who wish to review it again can, and anyone who wasn't able to participate can go to the Encompas site to watch it. Now, as we go through the presentation, you can submit questions through the Q&A feature, which comes to our Encompas team here, and I will read those out to Lee in a non-identifying way for her responses. Lee is open to having questions as she goes along, so I will pause periodically to ask those on your behalf. You can also just type in AAAA if you want to acknowledge that what Lee has said resonates with you. So, and now I will introduce Lee. Lee, welcome. Lee is a retired OPP communications operator. She began her career at the Mount Forest Communications Center in 1990, and she then transferred to a Provincial Communications Center in Orillia in 2002 and continued there for 18 more years of service. She retired in 2020 and returned again in 2021 to help out due to staff shortages, and then retired a second time in May of 2022, kind of. During her career, Lee was honored to be an acting CO3 coach, geomatic rep, and the first OPP communications operator to become a certified OPP fitness appraiser. Lee will be continuing to work as a trainer, this is the kind of retired, for the new OPP radio system. And she's really an active individual with hobbies which include music, songwriting, poetry, exercising, gardening. And she's also very involved with the Simcoe County Suicide Awareness Council, offering support and resources for people who have lost loved ones to suicide. And we're really pleased to have Lee here with us because she does have that comms operator experience, and we know that everybody within the policing force is exposed to, challenging situations. So Lee, thank you for being with us today to share your perspective, share some information with us about your career and your perspective on why connecting to mental health resources is critical for a healthy career and a happy life, which I understand you share with your husband of 40 years and your 2 adopted sons, which is amazing. So welcome. And with that, Lee, I'll turn things over to you and I'll interject with questions as they arise.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here today. And yeah, as you said, I started my career in Mount Forest. At that point, there was 17 communication centers throughout the province. Mount Forest was known as number 6 district. And we were, it was a very bare bones type of dispatch. Technology hadn't advanced anywhere near to what it is now. So while we were taking the calls for service, we were we were running the CPIC, we were entering the CPIC, we were doing court updates, we were typing out media releases. If anybody needed to be called out, it was all part and parcel of the job that we did at that time. This was pre-911, pre-cell phone, pre-GPS. It was very much people would call in give you their address, and you'd have to get specific directions on how to get to their house, because we didn't have 911 numbers. A lot of concession didn't mean a whole lot to us at the time. So it was, okay, go down highway. I used this example at the conference, but go up Highway 6, turn left onto Letterbreen Road, and turn right onto this road and the fourth house on the left. That's kind of how we did it because the technology wasn't there. It made sometimes taking serious calls quite lengthy, especially if they were calls for suicidal people or bad accidents, or whatever we were dealing with at the time. Sometimes you were on the call with the person for several minutes, even close to an hour, while resources got there. So that made it a little bit of more of a challenge. And so in 2000, roughly around the year 2000, the OPP had started amalgamating or restructuring their communication centers. And they were going from 17 communication centers down to 5. At that point, Mount Forest was scheduled to transfer to the London Communication Center. And for personal reasons, mostly family, because of where my family lived and my husband, London really wasn't the best option for us. So right away, I had asked to transfer to Aurelia because it was more central. And initially, the OPP was like, "No, sorry, if you don't go to London, we'll see if we can find you a job." And the sad part was that I loved what I did so much. I loved the dispatch part of it, that it made it really tough having to make that decision. But in May of 2002, the OPPA was fighting for us and for our rights, and finally got the OPP, or I don't even know exactly how or who was the final decision, but they finally gave us the option to transfer to a different communication center. So at that point, I transferred over to the Aurelia Communication Center, and I started there on December 2nd of 2002. Now, the one thing that I did not mention when we were dealing with these calls was the fact that initially communication operators weren't and aren't allowed or offered the chance to go to debriefs. And sometimes when you're dealing with really major calls, going to the debriefs is a huge part of our healing as well. The one call in particular that I talked about, that I went to the debrief, was a really bad day I had in 1998 with it started out at 7 in the morning with a transport truck hitting a bridge abutment and bursting into flames. So we had the 401 westbound closed while we dealt with that, and it was a fatal motor vehicle accident. And then directly across the highway at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the 401 eastbound, we had a tractor trailer or dump truck run over the back of a car, and it had killed the 2 children in the back seat. So that was 2 fatals that I was dealing with at that time, both eastbound and westbound closed. And then we ended up at about 4 in the afternoon, I had another serious accident up on a secondary highway where a lady was she was seriously injured and airlifted. We didn't know if she was going to make it. So I dealt with that whole day, basically barely leaving my desk. And it was a tough day. And I did mention this at the conference, that it was one of the few days that I actually walked out of the communication center, sat in my car and cried, because I had been dealing with so much stress and just the sadness of, 3 people having lost their life, and potentially a 4th. It was hard. So I did a little bit of crying in my car, and then went home. And I guess my husband was there to give me a hug. And the next night I was able to go to the debrief, and it was really amazing for me, going to the debrief and telling my part of the story, how I felt, my emotions. But then listening to the officers and hearing them talk about their story and how much it impacted them and how helpless they felt. At the time, I don't know whether I didn't remember it or didn't know it, but the driver of the car with the two children was actually an off-duty officer, which at the time I didn't know, or like I say, maybe I knew, but I didn't remember. But that, impacted the officers even more that were at the scene. So that was just one incident of, dealing with a stressful situation, being able to go to the debrief and getting a little bit of, I don't even know what the word I'm thinking of, but just hearing how everybody felt was really enlightening to me and really heartwarming. I walked out of the debrief with definitely a different appreciation for what they're dealing with at the scene. And, whether or not it resonated with them the same with what I was dealing with, I think it was good for both sides, to be quite honest with you. So that's one example of, just dealing with stress. And at that time, my kids were, our children were pretty little. And that was part of the other reason I didn't transfer to Aurelia right away. I transferred over for my job in 2002, but we didn't move the family over until February of 2006. The children were quite young, and I thought the move would be a little hard. Commuting for 4 years was not easy, especially if you know the distance from Mount Forest to Aurelia. It can take about an hour 30, 40, even 2 hours sometimes on a good day. Luckily, my husband and I purchased a duplex that I stayed with a sergeant and his family for a little bit. Then we purchased a duplex where I would drive over, do my shifts, and then drive home. So there was the stress of being away from the family for sometimes 4 days at a time and having to deal with things over the phone. There was the stress of having the two mortgages. There was just a lot going on, plus the stress of the job. I mean, that's always tough too. But in 2002, when I transferred over, it was definitely a lot different than Mount Forest, because Mount Forest was, west was typically 6th district, which went from Tobermory down to Exeter, crossed the 401 through Cambridge, Guelph area, and then up to Collingwood at that time. So a fairly big area, but nothing compared to going to Aurelia and having to start dispatching Central Region and Greater Toronto Region HSD. That was another ball game altogether. Trying to figure out the 401 series or any of the major highways, off ramps, on ramps, collector lanes, express lanes, before, after, all these things, and busy. I had no idea the volume that was going to change once I transferred over. But in about, I guess, about 2006, maybe a little earlier, 2004, I started getting into physical fitness. My dad wasn't healthy at the time, and I remember thinking that when I got to retirement, I didn't want to get there and not be healthy enough to enjoy, retirement and traveling and that sort of thing. My dad had always had some troubles with heart issues and high blood pressure. So I started exercising, started running. We had a comm center sergeant that was very into promoting physical fitness and healthy eating. He wanted us to take care of ourselves better. He would offer tips on healthy eating, that sort of thing. He made us watch the movie Super Size Me. And if anybody's ever watched it, it took me a while to be able to eat at a fast food restaurant again, but it was quite an eye opener. And then in 2006, he was also promoting, I should step back, he was also promoting that communication operators try to go for their fitness pin, which I had looked at a few times, but I thought there's no way I'll ever get it. But I'd been working out, I'd been running, and he was, setting up dates for people to try. So I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. So it was actually my birthday, July 23rd, 2006. I went and I tried for my first fitness pin and squeaked by, but was successful at getting it. And that was kind of the one of the game changers as far as getting me more involved with the being a certified fitness appraiser. But that started the ball kind of rolling. And I continued to get my fitness pin for the next 15 years, right up until I retired. I got my 5, 10, and 15-year pin, which I was really very, very proud of. I have them displayed proudly on the wall. And also just being involved with the program, I became a fitness appraiser at the age of 49, and was the first civilian communications operator to become a certified fitness appraiser, and that was a huge honor for me. And I did that for the next 9 to 10 years until I retired, and thoroughly loved it. It was so much fun going and encouraging people to try, even, if you didn't get it, the fact that you came out and tried. And that was, I can say that was probably one of my highlights in my career. As you mentioned, Louise, I was very involved in a lot of things, which I think helped with the career too, because it's a very stressful job. It can take a toll on things, but when you're involved in other things, there's just that little bit of something different to do other than just sit at your desk. For 13 years, I was the geomatic mapping rep, and that would involve people sending me updates on roads, new subdivisions, anything that was wrong with the mapping. This address doesn't verify. And then twice a year, I would go to the geomatic unit. We would go over all the updates and corrections and make sure everything worked before the next mapping refresh. Coaching, I did that for probably 20 plus years. I started a little bit coaching in Mount Forest. And but again, it was Mount Forest was you got hired, here's your headset, watch this person for a little bit and away you go. In Aurelia, it's a much different dynamics. You get hired, you go through a couple of days of orientation, and then you do 3 weeks at general headquarters taking your call taking course. Then you come back and you sit with a dispatcher for approximately 144 hours, I believe it is. It's been a while, but I think it's 144 hours. And then once they're signed off on you, you're ready to go. When they feel you're ready to proceed, then they send you back again for 3 weeks of dispatch. So that's improved greatly since here's your headset, have a seat, and away you go. And it's definitely helped with making people, I guess, better dispatchers and just giving them the resources. We don't get a lot of training, so it's kind of hard, but it is much better now that they're giving at least that much training to the call taking and dispatch. The other thing that they've started doing recently is we never had any training for mental health, how to deal with mental health callers. And, initially that was something we dealt with pretty much on a daily basis. People having either mental health issues or psychotic episodes or threats of suicide. Well, how do we know how to talk to them? And you did the best you could. But now, more recently, I believe within the last year, they've offered, they have mental health professionals sitting in each communication center and able to take the calls from the public. And I think that's dynamic. I think that's great, that it takes a little bit of that pressure off of the communicator, not to, tiptoe around afraid of saying the wrong thing. And now we have somebody in the comm center that can talk to them and offer the proper resources. So that's a huge win for us as far as I'm concerned. And not that, not that I think any of us ever did a bad job, but it's just taking a little more of the stress off of us when we're already dealing with a stressful day. If you're dealing with multiple accidents on the 401 or, road closures or whatever, it's just one less thing that, sometimes we don't have to worry about. So the certified fitness appraiser, that was very instrumental in dealing with my mental health. As I mentioned in 2005, it was April, I lost my dad and my grandpa within 12 days of each other. That was tough to deal with, but I kind of just plugged along. I took a little extra time off work to deal with some of the emotions and, sort of be there for my mom. And then in 2006, when we moved up to Aurelia, we had 3 mortgages we were carrying, as well as the kids, transferring the kids up to new schools. My husband quit his job so he could stay at home. Our youngest son has mental health needs. So we thought it would be better structurally if there was somebody there to be home all the time. So the stress really, that just all built up and accumulated. In the spring of 2006, I had an episode where I blacked out at a bank and woke up in the hospital. And at that point, I just realized that I needed help dealing with some issues. So I reached out to our EAP program at the time, and I started getting some counseling. I guess I saw the counselor for approximately 6 months. I did some narrative and cognitive behavioral therapy. At that time, I was kind of thought, well, I didn't think I really needed it, but then I realized I did. And after I was done my sessions, I was blown away by really how much I wasn't taking care of myself. And I suffered from some self-esteem issues, which I never would have dreamt of in a million years. Thought I was fairly confident, but confidence and self-esteem are two different stories altogether. So that helped me deal with a bunch of issues that I was holding in, I guess, and not acknowledging. So I was really thankful for that. I was thankful for the chance that, I had the opportunity through work to receive the help I needed. So then after that, a lot of my journey is my writing. I started writing poetry in about 1986, 85, somewhere around there, with a poem for my husband for Christmas. And that's kind of snowballed just into a healthy habit. When things were bugging me, I would just write a poem or even just write, journal, that sort of thing. And the poetry led to me wanting to put them into songs. So I bought my first guitar in 1989 and started taking guitar lessons. And then from there, started writing my own music and writing my own songs. I can't read a note, but I play all by ear, which kind of amazes some people sometimes. But I got a bit of music with my grandpa and my grandma on both sides are both musical. And so I put out my first CD in, I believe it was 1998. And what made it special was the one song that I wrote. All my grandpa said, my grandpa actually came to the studio and played the fiddle on the song with me. And so I have that memory, I have that CD, and it was just, it was very special. So music is a huge part of my therapy. There's nothing nicer than getting together with friends or musicians and just sitting around and playing the guitar and singing. And even just having a bad day, I just close the door in the bedroom and just, play away by myself for an hour. And it's amazing how much it really helps. As well as that, I do have quite a few flower gardens. I showed some of the pictures at the conference, and they offer a huge therapy as well, because you just can go out, lose yourself in the day, pull the wrong thing, they don't care. You just go out and just work out some frustration in the flower beds. But also, it's very, very good for your physical fitness as well, because it does take a lot more than people realize when you're bending and up and down. So it's very good physically as well. I'm not as active in the running as I was when I retired from the OPP, but I do still stay active with walking. I have a 5-kilometer route that I walk 2 or 3 times a week, as well as things around the house. I have a stationary bike in the basement that in the winter, when it's not nice out, I'll ride it. Some hand weights. So even though I'm not running, I'm still trying to keep myself physically active, and still involved with volunteering with different things. I'm going to be volunteering at one of the local nursing homes. They're in a bit of a lockdown, excuse me, right now due to COVID, but when they clear, I'm going to be volunteering by going over and singing for the residents. I've got that set up, as well as being involved with the Simcoe County Suicide Awareness Council. I've been involved with them for about the last 8 years, and I got involved with them due to some tragedy in my own family and life, with my cousin taking his life at the age of 51, and then my best friend losing her daughter. And I wrote a song after that for my friend and my aunt, just trying to put myself in their shoes and writing the song from how they would be feeling and trying to deal with the loss. And I submitted it to the Simcoe County Suicide Awareness Council. And right away, Bernadette Copeland, the chair, she reached out and asked if I would come to one of their annual walks and sing it for the people attending. Excuse me, which I did. And from then on, I stayed involved and became one of the council members. And I'm still very involved with this. We have the walk that we do in May. We have a bench and a tree dedication that we do every year on September 10th, which is International Prevention Suicide Day. We also have November 19th is the International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day, and I'll be involved in that this year. And last year we started a 11-second challenge, which we did short videos, and once a week we would release one of the videos, just showing acts of kindness and encouraging people to do the same, and download it to our website. So sharing a pair of mittens, or opening the door for somebody, or just reaching out, to somebody that's struggling, and just reaching out to say hi and say, hey, how are you doing? And hopefully, we release them in December 1st to go over Christmas and New Year's. So hopefully, with it being a tough time of year for many people, that people would be able to relate to them, and it would offer some comfort. So I continued at the Aurelia Communication Center until November 2020. And I finished on November 7th, which November 6th was my full 30-year anniversary. I was very proud of that. That was my goal. I wanted to get to my 30 full years of service. And the next day I retired. And it was hard. I don't mind saying, when you go to the seminars and they talk about retirement, and just what a shock it is, and how tough it can be to deal with. They're not kidding. Like it's very true. Even though I'm an active person, I have lots of hobbies. It was COVID, so everybody was in lockdown. Couldn't join, all the things that I had planned on doing, like joining exercise classes, going on a trip, treating myself to a vacation, getting out and maybe going to start curling again. All these things, all of a sudden, you couldn't do it. And I'm sitting there thinking, holy cow, like, what am I going to do? I had been hired for the radio project, but that, of course, was put on hold. And so it was tough, I don't mind saying. And when the communication center reached out and said, we're really short, would you consider coming back? I was like, yep, I'll come back and help out. So that was in February, I believe, that they reached out to me. And I went back in June. I believe it was June 14th of 2021. And because I was already retired, my hours were restricted to 20 hours a week, which was really just about perfect. It ended up being 2 10-hour shifts. But I was amazed at how busy it had gotten in the 6-7 months I was gone. I could not get over the volume of calls we were getting. And I just was blown away. I remember sitting at my desk for a 10-hour shift, and myself, I took 180 calls for service, one desk. I was blown away. I just was like, that, 100 calls, yeah, but 180 in 10 hours, I was really shocked at that. And really noticing more and more the amount of communicators that were dealing with burnout and going off work because of either mental health reasons or physical health reasons, either one. I was really noticing a huge increase in that. And good for them, really, because you need to do that. If you're feeling that exasperated and you're feeling that overwhelmed, you need to do that. You need to take care of yourself. And I know many people, and I know many friends who have gone off, and even to this day, the guilt they feel about being off, not being there to help out. Well, yeah, you're not there, but you got to take care of yourself. You have to get yourself better. You're not going to be any good at the communication center if you're not taking care of yourself. And that's a huge stigma that we really need to work on, is the people that are off for whatever reason. It's nobody's business but theirs. Good for them for recognizing that it's okay not to be okay. I love using that phrase because I think it's important, and good for them for recognizing that they needed to step back and take time for themselves. And we really do need to work on just getting rid of that stigma that, the old days where whether you're an officer on the road, whether you're a communication operator, regardless what job you do in whatever profession, first responders, otherwise, we all need to make sure that we take care of ourselves. And having Encompas there as one of the resources is huge. I did recently reach out again to Encompas back in January of this year. Just more for a mental check for me. I was having trouble dealing with some issues, and I reached out. I was hooked up with a therapist again. I did about 4 months of Zoom conferencing, or not conferencing, but therapy, and got hooked up with some books and resources, and that just helped me get myself back where I needed to be again. So thank you to Encompas for that. It was really, really good to have the resource there, and just how well they took care of me. In fact, I just had an email the other day from my contact just checking in to see how I was doing again. And that meant a lot to me. So after being back in the Comm Center for another year, I don't know if I'm circling back again, but after going back to help out in a year, I retired again on May 26, 2022, and I was ready this time. First time, maybe I wasn't quite mentally ready to walk out the door. I wasn't quite ready to quit. Second time around, I was definitely ready. I 30, almost 32 years with the job, and I had definitely had enough. I was ready to go. So I left with a much different attitude, and then plus with the world sort of opening up again, being able to do things, being able to go to a party. I was able to go to the Mariposa Folk Festival for the first time, something I'd always wanted to do. Of course, being in love with music, it was a wonderful experience. And then just being able to get together with friends and family and just go to functions again. It was really good. So my second time around retiring was definitely the right choice and the right timing. So I felt really good about everything. So now that I've been retired, it's been, I guess, since May. I've been involved with a few things recently. I got involved and joined the OPP chorus. So I'm very excited about that. I've only gone to, I guess, 2 practices so far, but well, hopefully I'll only get better as time goes on, but really enjoying that. And it's nice, once a week to get out and do something different and be with friends. And then my husband, as I mentioned, he's a huge part of my journey as well with my career, because without that support at home, without that somebody to come home and cry on their shoulder or just somebody to talk to, it really does go a long way. And then I mentioned my children as well, 2 adopted boys, Christian and Anthony. Their understanding was key as well, because there was many times Christmas didn't fall on Christmas. Their birthdays didn't fall on their birthdays because of shift work. And they were understanding with, yep, that's fine. We'll have a party on Saturday, or, we'll have your birthday cake on the day I'm off. I remember coming home at 6 o'clock at night. They'd have the clocks ahead 4 hours, so we would pretend it was New Year's Eve, and the clock would ring midnight. We'd say Happy New Year, and then I'd go to bed because I had to get up and work in the morning. But just little things like that. And I know at first they didn't quite understand that Mom needed her sleep on nights, but they soon learned, because I could be pretty grouchy if I didn't get enough sleep. But over the years, I know my oldest one in particular really did learn to appreciate the job that I did, and really understood why I did what I did. I know it was tough moving them up here when he was 16. Anthony was 11, Christian was 16. But it was a decision my husband and I made. We were both commuting different directions. We were carrying 2 mortgages. I was missing a lot of family time and family life that was really starting to bother me. So it was a decision that we made, and I know they had a hard time understanding it. But once we got up here and settled, they really did fit in and start enjoying the area. And it's wonderful up here, I have to say. I really do enjoy it. So I don't know if there's anything I've left out, or if anybody has anything else to say, or if you need me to add anything further. But that's pretty much my career in a nutshell, if you want to say it that way.
Wow. Thank you, Lee, so much for sharing your story. I have to say, and I'm echoing the comments of one of the individuals who sent in a message just about, what a positively minded person I mean, I don't know you, I've just heard your story, but such a positive person, in life. And the message was about how, what a positive impact you've had in the association throughout your career, and now continuing to make a positive difference by speaking out. So thank you for that. And just wanted to read, that's just not me, that's a message in the chat there as well about how valuable you are in making a difference. So thank you. There are some questions in the chat here. There's an individual who just said that did you feel that when you went for counseling services the first time, that it was important? Some people have felt that it's very important that the counselor that you're meeting with understand the first responder world. Did you have that, or did you feel that that was an important part of their perspective in helping you to get better?
Well, when the first time when I went for counseling, I was really dealing, I mean, the stress of the job was there, yes, which maybe was underlying, but I was really dealing with a lot of personal demons, if you want to call them that, or issues from unresolved relationship with my dad. So even though it was more for my personal well-being that I went, the counselor that I did see, and that was back in 2006, was very understanding to the job, the first responder job, and understanding that probably, had a hand in some of the issues I was dealing with as well. So I did not feel that they, I felt that they really were understanding of what the job we did. I did not get a sense that any other of anything else, if that's the right way to word it.
Yeah, I think the match is really, really important when you're seeking some counseling support. You need to feel that there's a good match. And for some people, like you say, if they can understand, through their conversations with you, and you feel connected to them, you can absolutely move forward. And sometimes you're going for personal issues unrelated to the job, and other times you're going for work related. So I think the match is, I think, what I would reiterate as being really, really important. And we're people. So it's not just the, kind of the expertise and the experience, but I would encourage anybody that if you don't feel you have the right people connection either, then it's absolutely okay to change therapists. You get what you need. So
yeah, and they definitely reiterated that if I didn't feel that there was the proper fit, to make sure that I told them. Both therapists I dealt with, I felt very comfortable with both of them. No problem at all.
Great. Some comments here about, I hear of all the things you had on your plate there, and just the challenges of work-life balance, and just some question around you, because of the amalgamation, did a move with your family, and just wondering your thoughts around the impact of that from a mental health perspective. If you can share anything from your perspective around the impact of that.
Oh, it was it was huge. The strain that it took, on not knowing if I had a job. That was part of it, because I had to wait. Aurora was was amalgamating with Aurelia at the same time Mount Forest was amalgamating with London. So I had to wait to find out if I even had a job. And that was stressful. The closing was very stressful, because 12 years is a long time to spend at one place. And it was just, I can so relate to any of the Smith Falls people. If there's anybody listening in or watching, I can totally relate to that stress and just anguish that it felt, that holy cow, here I am, I don't have a job, or they're ripping the rug right out from under me. That was very stressful. And it took about a month to find out I actually had a position in Aurelia. And so that was a huge, thank heavens. but then it brought the, well, where are we going to live? Where am I going to live?
Right.
What are we going to do with the kids? So yeah,
Yeah.
there was a lot of stress there. I don't mind saying.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm answering the question correctly, but yeah, it was very, it was a
Well,
tough one.
any suggestions for, I mean, I guess, you could say, don't do those sorts of amalgamations, don't require people to move, which is, one consideration, of course. Any suggestions you have around how maybe things could be made easier for people if that's a situation that they're faced with?
Well, I know the OPP and the OPPA were really instrumental with trying to make it as smooth as possible. If I had transferred over right away, everything would have been taken care of. The move, like it would all have been there. But because of the children and the situation, I opted to move a little later. Now, OPP and OPPA still were very helpful down the road and did help with some of the expenses incurred. But they really were very understanding. And I've heard this from a few people, like the bigger, better isn't necessarily a good thing. Bigger comm centers, is it better? Maybe from the dollar value, but you really lose a lot of the camaraderie. And the smaller comm centers like we had in Mount Forest there was just so much friendship there, and it was a smaller environment. We'll probably never get that back, but I do hear that comment a lot from coworkers that I work with in Mount Forest, that family environment just isn't the same.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your perspective on that. And hopefully your family is all good and settled in now.
Oh yeah. Well, we've been up here almost 17 years now. So the boys are out of the house, and yeah, everybody's good. Our family's
Good, good. All right, we have Lee, you're awesome, listening from Burlington. Thanks for all you do. Thanks, Lee. Had a good cry. Thanks for sharing. The best of the best. Honored to call her coworker and friend. Just a confirmation of just how beneficial it is for us to be talking about these things with one another. So one participant also just wanting to reiterate and support the importance of a good match with a therapist. Not only their experience, but also who they are as a person. I think having an authentic, safe, comfortable connection is really critical. Let's see here. There's a question about whether or not, before starting your counseling, if you had an opportunity to know the therapist's professional credentials before you started with them. So I don't know if that's different before and after.
the first time, no. It was just again, it was set up through EAP, and the first time it was just, here's your appointment and go speak with them. But again, they did say that, if I had any apprehensions or didn't feel, that he was helping me, to let them know. The second time through Encompas, they gave me more information on the therapist, their credentials, and then they let me choose which one I thought would be a better fit for me. And I really appreciated that, because not that they didn't both have, good credentials. Of course, they're going to, but I just felt the therapist I did speak with just really had more involvement with first responders, and was going to be a better fit for me. And she really was. I connected with her right away.
Great, thank you. I also just wanted to comment on, one theme that really stuck out was the importance of self-care. And self-care can be many, many things, right? It can be really, really different for everybody. And what struck me about your life is that you engaged in a lot of activities and interests that allowed your brain to kind of refocus on something other than work and other than everything that you would take in during a working day. And I just wondered if you could comment or talk about that a little bit more in terms of in what ways that's beneficial, because you can talk about getting counseling, which of course is really important and helpful. Hopefully early when you're starting to kind of find yourself, recognize some signs maybe that you're struggling, but then also the benefits of that early self-care in terms of staying resilient. Can you comment a little more about how those, like physical, mental, how they helped you?
Well, and everybody knows that physical exercise is huge for many reasons, not only just for your health, but also for your mental health. I am a firm believer that they go hand in hand. Your mental health, if you're not mentally healthy, then your body tends to suffer, and vice versa. I really enjoyed getting into the physical fitness because I could just jump on the treadmill and lose myself for 40 minutes in the morning. I would go in and work out an hour before each shift when I was on day shift. And that was my start to the day and just preparing myself mentally. As far as the taking care of myself, like I say, I recognized fairly early in 2002 that I needed to lose weight. I was probably about 60 pounds overweight. I needed to lose weight. And again, that all goes part of your physical health, because if you're not healthy, and then again, you need to take care of yourself. So I recognized I was overweight. I needed to exercise more, needed to watch what I was eating, that self-care, self-awareness. And once you start doing that, it's amazing how much mentally you feel better. Once your body starts feeling better, it's amazing how much you start feeling better. So it was a real personal journey for me, but I was really glad I did it. I'm not sure if I answered that correctly, Louise, but and then the other things that I do, the writing, the music, the gardening, they're all hobbies. They're healthy hobbies, and they definitely keep me involved. As far as the other things that I did with the comm center, with the coaching, I enjoyed that thoroughly. It was always fun using my experience to coach others. The geomatic was great. I loved doing that because, again, it gave my brain something else to do or focus on in the middle of the night when the phones weren't as busy. I could sit there and I could work on my submissions for that. And then the fitness appraising, that was just such a personal, to get officers reaching out and auxiliary members reaching out and encouraging people in the comm center to come out and try for your PIN. Once a month, I would send out an email with names of people that had tried and healthy tips. I tried to carry on in the sergeant, sort of tried to carry on in his, role with offering healthy tips on food and exercises and that sort of thing. So I just really tried to do my best to spread the news as well.
Yes, I thought when you mentioned that how valuable it is to have a leader, a mentor, somebody around you that really reinforces those messages around the importance of caring for oneself. So, and you did such a beautiful job of diversifying your focus, so giving your mind a break, and also finding outlets to release, the stress that you were exposed to on an everyday basis. So,
and you need those outlets. Like you need those step back from life sometimes and just have something else to concentrate on and think about.
Yeah, yeah. Just going through the questions here. It's an interesting one. This is a real, but just an individual saying here that there was some discussion with EMS around the difference between having scripted call taking and the more free form approach to call taking. So just interested in your perspective around whether it could have potentially reduced stress to have more scripted, structured call taking procedures.
Well, EMS does have the structured call taking, and to me, it's hard because when you as a police dispatcher, when you call them and they're scripting all these questions, was the car going over 80? Are they breathing normally? That we can't answer that. So that's frustrating. But from a police perspective, I don't think you can go with a scripted call taking menu because every situation's different. When you answer the phone, it's 9 times out of 10 never going to be exactly the same scenario twice. So it would be very hard to have a scripted call taking. That's my perspective. I wouldn't want it. And I just think we deal with too many different, too many varieties of calls that it just would not work.
Yeah. And I'm over to you because it's not me, but I wonder if it makes a difference if you're a younger, newer comms center operator versus somebody that's got years of experience like yourself,
Yeah, that could be part of it too. I mean, quite often when I tell people, or when I was still at the comm center, and I talk about when I started and how antiquated the technology was, I always referred to myself as a dinosaur because I just looking back and the changes that I've seen, it would be hard. I don't mind saying I would have a very hard time following a scripted call taking.
Yeah. All right, just more comments here around how they appreciate you sharing and your openness, and how affirming it is to know that everybody has struggles. Appreciate the kind of the tips on how to deal with stress. Let's see here. Appreciation for your transparency and the impact that that's had on a number of first responders who have seen you present and heard you talk.
Well, if it helps anybody, with them realizing that it's okay to reach out, good on that, because that's what we're here for. We're here to talk about our stories. We're here to open up. We're here to try to get rid of some of the stigmas. So if it helps one person out there, then thank you. I'm glad I was able to do that.
We're just about at the end here, Lee. How could somebody listen to, I'm sorry I didn't think to do this, but how could somebody listen to your songs?
Well, I do have CDs available. I can mail them, but also Hands of Time, the one that I wrote for suicide awareness, is on YouTube. And I do have some songs on YouTube under my name. It's just me and the guitar. It's nothing professional by any means. But every year in February, I join this songwriting group. It's international. And the goal is to write 14 songs in 28 days. And the last 2 years, I've actually written 20 songs in 28 days. So some of those songs are on YouTube. And then, as I say, you can give out my email. It's just leematthieu@hotmail.com. If people are interested in getting a copy of any of the CDs that I've done, by all means, or if they want to just reach out and reach out and talk or ask a question, I'm more than available and willing to talk to anybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So many, the positive comments continue to come in. If anybody has any questions, you can continue to put them in the chat, and then we can follow up with you. But we are out of time. So Lee, I just wanted to thank you so much for sharing your positive and inspiring story. It really does make a difference. People on the session today also really appreciated hearing about your positive experiences and reaching out for help, and your message around there's no shame in that, and that giving them the courage to reach out. So thank you. I just wanted to close by reminding everybody that, you know, the Encompass program is here as confidential support for you. You can call us 24/7 at you know, our 800 number. You can access us through our website. You can send a message or a chat. I'd also encourage our OPPA members and their family to check out all of the amazing resources we've curated for you on the Encompass member portal. Reaching out for mental health counseling is great. There's also, like I said, a lot of things that you can, Lee, you mentioned yourself, some books and resources that were helpful to you. And the portal has a number of resources that were specifically curated with an understanding of first responder needs. And you can access those with the help of an Encompass Care Manager or independently through the Encompass Care website for our members. And you'll find everything there from self-directed couples course. There's a 21 module ICBT substance reduction course called Hello Premium. So just a whole host of resources that you can either access on your own or we can guide you to. So I want to thank everybody today for your time and your participation. We look forward to having you hopefully attend our next session, which is scheduled for Wednesday, the 23rd at 10 a.m. And there we will have Mark Rainford, who's a retired officer and an inspirational officer, and he's going to speak about his story and lessons learned. We're then going to pause the sessions and resume it again in January. So if anybody has suggestions for speakers in the new year, we'd love to hear from you. Just send us a message at encompass@daltonassociates.ca.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lee. And this, as I said, will be recorded and saved on our Encompass site. So we really appreciate the impact you're having. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.